Hey guys, welcome back to Bear Mountain Builds, and if you're new here, I'm Zach. And today we're building ourselves a mid-size workbench that's 2 feet deep and 3 feet wide. Plus, we're gonna have 2 3-inch drawers and 1 8-inch drawer. And later on in this video, I'm gonna show you a super simple and easy method for installing both drawer sliders and drawers. If you are somebody who has never installed drawers before, or you've done it before, you've used all the jigs and clamps, and you just find the whole thing tedious, I promise you, you are going to love this new method. This mid-size workbench is designed specifically for your benchtop tools that are just a little too tall for your regular tables, but they're obviously not designed to go on the floor either. That's things like your benchtop bandsaw, your benchtop drill press, a router table, or your benchtop joiner. And even if you don't have any of those tools, it's still a really great height workbench to have, because sometimes your projects just get too tall to work on your standard workbench, but they're not tall enough to put on the floor. So instead, it's really nice just to have a medium height. To top it all off, it's of course rock solid. And as always, I offer detailed plans for the whole build. Saves you a ton of time and makes the process super easy, so you can check those out if you're interested down below. And with that, let's get started with the build. All right, so to kick this build off, we're focusing on the frame, and in true Bear Mountain Builds fashion, for these shop builds, I want my frames to be as rock solid and big and beefy as possible, so we're gonna be building it out of 2x4s. Now in the past, I've gotten some questions from you guys saying, how do you get such beautiful 2x4s? Where do you go? And I have to tell you a secret. I don't go anywhere special. You do not wanna go on the weekends if you're looking for 2x4s, because that's when everybody else goes. What I found is the best time to go is Monday evening or Tuesday. It gives your store a little bit longer to restock, and you have this big, fresh new palette of 2x4s to pick from. Your odds of finding really nice boards go way up. And finally, for my videos, I take my 2x4s and I run them through a planer and take a 1/16 of an inch off of each of the 4 sides. I do it just because it takes that bull nose off, really crisps everything up. You can do the same thing with a table saw, but you really don't need to worry about it. Even my plans don't worry about it because they still assume nominal dimensions of your 1.5 by 3.5 inches. So with that, let's take our beautiful 2x4s over to the miter saw and get these cut to length. Just like that, we've got all of our pieces cut to length. Now, before we can start assembling our frame, we're gonna drill out a couple pocket holes. I like to use pocket holes because they are super simple to do, and there's plenty of strength there. I have never had a single issue with pocket screws, so highly recommend them. So to do that, we're gonna drill 2 holes on each end. Now that we got the ends of our cross pieces drilled out, we still have a few more to do because we need to be able to mount our top and bottom platforms to our frame. While everything's still in pieces, we're gonna add our pocket holes along the sides of our cross pieces and our stretchers. Our legs are made up of a short leg and a long leg. These work together as a lap joint. Now we're putting our short leg down first, and we have our 2 cross pieces sandwiched in place. These are just gonna function as spacers for now, but we can lay down a bead of glue. And then using our cross pieces as their spacers, we're gonna take our long leg, lay it down on top, and space it out so that our short leg is centered on our long leg. And then once we have it centered, we're gonna run our screws in through here, and we're doing our screws in through the long leg because this is gonna be the interior side of the table, so they're not gonna be as visible. Because at Bear Mountain Builds, even though this is a workshop build, we still gotta make it look good. All right, we've got all of our legs put together. Now we're gonna be starting to put together our side frames. Let me show you how it works real quick. Now these are all gonna be held together using lap joints. I really love lap joints because they are not only super simple and really easy to put together, but they're also really strong. Because this is what our side frame is going to look like. And without any hardware holding this thing together, It can take all my weight because it transfers all of that load that's coming in through the top right into our legs and right into the ground. With this, we're going to start putting our frame together. Big thing to note is we want to keep our pocket hole direction on our stretchers the same between the two of them. So in this case, if our pocket holes are coming up on this one, we want to make sure that our bottom one, they're also going up. Again, screws are still going in from the backside. Again, pocket hole orientation. These lap joints do keep everything pretty doggone perpendicular, but the corner clamps really make life easy. So with that, we've got both of our frame halves all put together, so it's time to actually get these connected. Now to do that, we're just gonna lay this thing down and we're going to be attaching our cross pieces with our pocket screws and glue. Now again, just got to pay attention to the orientation of these pocket holes to the rest of the frame. Just want to make sure everything's going the same direction. I only say that because I've made the mistake before and it's a real bummer. So in attaching these cross pieces, I do a little bit of glue and then I like to use a 24-inch clamp just to hold everything in place. These get a little squirrely when you have that glue on there, and especially when you're trying to run some pocket screws through it. Now that we got our 4 cross pieces in place, we can go ahead and attach our other half of the frame. Now I'm just going through and putting a little bit of glue on each of these 4, and then we'll just go one by one and lock it down. And one more time for those in the back, make sure your pocket hole orientation matches. Our frame has a shape to it. Now usually I would just stop right here, call it a day, but since this is going to have a benchtop drill press on it, which can get pretty heavy, I mean you're talking 80 to maybe even 90 pounds, I'm going to put a little bit more bracing on the top just so we're not stressing out our 3/4 inch plywood platform. So we're going to just take these last 2 cross pieces and lay them right in here with more pocket screws. That, our frame is done. For our top and bottom platforms, we're going to be making those out of 3/4 inch plywood. Now generally, I don't like having to run a whole sheet of plywood through my table saw, so I like to set it up on my assembly table and I throw a 2-inch piece of foam underneath it. That way I can just rip it down really easily. The foam is just a good buffer for my saw, so I'm not cutting into my table. We've got our top and bottom platforms all cut out. Now our top platform's done because it goes on just like this. However, our bottom platform, we need to go through and knock out the 4 corners so it can fit around our legs. right, so I just got done notching out my corners for the bottom platform. Well, usually with my larger frames, I don't ever actually have to think about how I'm going to fit the platforms in because there's plenty of space in there. I probably should have thought about it with this frame. However, this is what happens when you got clean living, because I figured out there is one way to fit your platform into this frame. That's why the frame is upside down, because you got to feed it in upside down, and you can do it at this angle where it's lined up corner to corner, and you feed it in until you can feed it in between your legs over here, and then you can set it in at an angle and it will rest down into place and you're nested into your legs. And then you can just take the whole frame, flip it over, and then let it push all the way down to the base. And I kept these pretty tight, so that's why it takes a little bit of pushing, but then you're good to go. Then you're good to go. All right, with our bottom and top platforms in place, this table is pretty much done. So for drawers, what we're going to do first is we're going to be going back to our 3/4 inch plywood. We're going to cut out our side walls, and that's going to be what we can mount our sliders to. These side panels are going in right here along our legs. Our drawer fronts are going to be inset in our frame, and they're going to be flush to that outside. So what we got to do for these side panels is we got to inset these by a 1/2 inch using the 1/2 inch spacer, and we can just position it off the front and shift that until it's in the right spot. And we're just going to glue and brad nail these side panels in place. It's honestly super easy, and it's going to be really strong. Now, one thing to point out is our frame's got a little bit of a rock in it. This corner is high by about a 1/16 of an inch. It was perfectly fine a couple days ago. I built this a couple days ago because I have a day job, but wood just has moisture in it. Sometimes it can just get a little wonky and move on you, but it's really easy to fix. Let me show you. All we're going to do is clamp these two high corners down directly to our table. With these two clamps in place on our high corners, it holds our whole table in square, and then we can go ahead and get these side panels mounted in place, and that's going to keep everything square once we take our clamps off. So with our glue in place, we can go ahead and slide in our sidewalls. Then we can go ahead and nail it down. So with that, we've got our two side panels mounted in place. Now I'm going to leave this whole thing clamped to the table while that glue dries so it can hold its frame. But while that dries out, we're going to start cutting out our drawers. Just like our 3/4 inch plywood, I'm just going to strip this thing down to more manageable sizes, and then we can take it down to final length. This is one of the reasons why I build all of my tables the same height, because I have my expanding outfeed table for my table saw, but then I can use it in conjunction with my modular workbench. That way it can function as an infeed when I'm ripping stuff that's 8 feet long like this. It just makes the whole thing super easy. Your whole shop should just work together. Alrighty, we've got all of our drawer pieces cut out, so now it's time to start putting our drawers together. What I like to do is lay my drawer out first, because that way it prevents me from making any dumb mistakes on doing the lap joints wrong. Because if you do that, your drawers are going to be off by an inch, and then you're going to have to be remaking your drawers. So in this case, what we're doing is we have our short boards and our long boards. Now our short boards are going to be the side walls of our drawers. Long boards are going to be the front and back walls. Now I'm lapping it so that our side boards are going to cap our front and back boards. You want to do this on all your drawers because it's going to cover the end grain of your side walls, so they're just going to look a little bit nicer. It is just going to be a workshop build, but it's always good to keep to the basics. For putting these together, all we're doing is going to be throwing some glue on the ends, and then we'll just brad nail them in place with some 1-inch 18 gauge brad nails. Honestly, super easy. Along with that, I like to use my corner clamps. I have 4 of them. They're going to go over each of these corners, and they just hold the corner square and in place. There's no wiggling around. That way I can just run my brad nails through really easily. I used to do drawers before without corner clamps, and you just always felt like you needed a third hand. I didn't really like doing drawers until I had these. They work really great. All you got to do is you take your existing trigger clamp that you have, pop off your pads, and then the corner clamp attachment just slides on in place. Just like that. I know everybody has different trigger clamps out there, so I have several different ones designed for different brands, so you can check those out, link down below in the video description. We're going to just be taking our long boards, and we're just going to throw some glue on the ends. You don't need a lot. It will splooge pretty good after you put these joints together. Splooge is a technical term. They teach you that in engineering school. I just put one joint together, get it clamped into place, and then just make my way around the entire drawer. Now these corner clamps keep everything relatively square, but really what's going to hold everything square is going to be our bottom panel that we'll put on once this is all dried. Just like that, one drawer side wall done. For these taller drawers, I like to just put the corner clamp on, pin the top in place, and then I will take off my corner clamps so that way I can flip my drawer over. And then I just put my corner clamps back in place and finish up nailing everything in place. It does move a little bit. All right, with that, we've got all of our drawer sides assembled. Now we can go ahead and get our bottoms put on here. Really easy. Everything's already cut to size, so we're just going to run a glue bead all the way around. We're going to put our bottom in place, and then we'll just brad nail it down. So we've got our glue bead down. Now we can just put our bottom on, and we'll try to put the pretty side down. For these bottoms, I just like to square up one side, and we'll blast some brad nails in here, and then we can force the rest of the sides to be square to our bottom. Now that one side's pinned in place, we can then just push this over, and it will square up our side walls, then pin the rest of it down. And then sometimes if your walls just have a little bit of bow in them and they're bowing inward, you just can just take it off the side of your table a little bit and then pull it out just a little so you can just brad nail it in place. With that, one drawer down, two to go. With our drawers all built, we're going to move on to mounting our sliders into our frame. Now, as you can tell, I've turned our frame sideways. With this method, there are no clamps, no jigs, nothing. It's just spacers and gravity doing all the work for you. It is so easy. I always take off the part that mounts directly to your drawer. It just frees up some space and it makes it easier to get access to your main slider so you can pin this into your frame. So I just take my slider, lay it in place, and then I put one spacer in, put the next spacer in, flush it up against that, and then I like to use one more spacer and just use it as a gauge so that we know that our slider is flush to the front of our wall. Then when that's in place, we can go ahead and start pinning our slider in place. There you go, one slider in, super easy. You can pull out your spacers and then we can stack up our next set. Honestly, it's really like Legos. I've got 3 cameras on this right now because I stand in the way of at least 2 of them while I drill these in place, so one of them's probably gonna work. So with that, we've got all 3 of our sliders in place, so it's time to put them back together. So with that, we can do the same thing on the other side. We've got all of our sliders in place. Now we can move on to mounting up our drawers. I've already pulled up my bottom drawer because that's what we're going to be installing first. All these sliders are soft close, so I like to just disengage the soft close so they move a little bit freer. Then you pull them out a little bit, do it on both sides. Then we're taking our spacers and we're just laying these out close to the edges by our sliders. So what's going to happen, our drawer is going to just rest on these spacers, so we're going to get perfect spacing all the way across, make sure everything's level and perpendicular, and then we can just take our drawer, put it in place, So now it's in place, it's sitting on those spacers, so we've got that equal spacing all the way around. We just pull our drawer out a little bit. We're taking a spacer, just putting it flush against the front of our drawer, and then we're just gonna make sure that our slider is also flush against that. And then we can just go ahead and screw the slider in place. Looking good. And we'll do that for both sides. Now that our sliders are both pinned in place, we can just pull our drawer out a little bit further. We just want to make sure that these spaces that are underneath the drawer stay underneath the drawer, both the ones that are at the front and the back, because if it falls off, it's going to want to start to cantilever on us. So it fell off at the back, so we'll just make sure that spacer moves with it. And we'll just keep pushing it forward until we get access to our next set of holes on our slider, and we'll screw it in place again. And then we just repeat that same process until that drawer is all the way out and fully mounted. Since our front is pinned in place, we don't have to worry about it anymore, so we just need to keep supporting the back side of our drawer. Sometimes since it's getting so cantilevered out, I like to just apply a little pressure to the back of the drawer just so we make sure that we're making contact with our spacers. So with that, our drawer is fully mounted, so we can just go ahead and pull out these spacers. Then with our spacers removed, for our next drawer, we're doing the same method that we did for our sliders, and we're stacking off of the previous drawer. We loosen up our sliders, get them disengaged. We're going to take our drawer, and we're just going to slip it into place without any spacers. We're going to take our spacers and just start to feed them in, and we're just going to sandwich them in between our two drawers. And the same thing, I got two in the front and two in the back. Our next drawer up is properly spaced out from the bottom drawer, so we can start attaching our sliders again. Now how we do this is we're just taking this bottom drawer, and sometimes if you can't get your fingers in here, you can just push it from the back side, but we're going to just pull it out and see how that top drawer just comes with it. It's super easy. We just do the same method. We bring out our slider, we'll flush it up against the front, blast a bunch of screws in there, and you're good to go. You can pull out your spacers. If you've ever done drawers before, you'll understand just how easy this method is. Just like before, now that this drawer is fully mounted in place, we can just go ahead and pull our spacers. And it functions just like a drawer because it is one. And just like that, all of our drawers are installed, and now we can move on to doing some drawer fronts. We've got all of our drawer fronts cut out of 1/2-inch plywood, so we're ready to install. Now how these work is we're going to have an 1/8-inch gap all the way around in our frame, and then we're also going to have an 1/8-inch gap in between each of our drawer fronts. The installation process for these is just as easy as before because we're using the same stacking method with the spacers. But first, we got to get these top drawers pulled out. Now I took out these top drawers because we need to have access to this lower drawer as we install this first drawer face, because it needs to stay fully recessed so that way we can stack it off the frame. And like I said before, it's an 1/8-inch gap all the way around, so we're taking our 1/8-inch spacers, we're just going to put them in here, resting against the bottom. You can set the drawer front in place, and then we'll use one more 1/8-inch spacer to set our side. Take some clamps and clamp this in place. We can then go through the back side and actually screw in our screws that will mount our drawer front to the drawer. Just like that, front's attached. Now we can move on to the next drawer. Pretty much the same setup. We're gonna put our spacers in place. Then we can lay our board in. We'll space it off from the side once again. And then we can put our clamps on. Now that this is locked in place, we can pull our spacers, and we'll just pull the drawer out itself just so we get better access to it, because it gets a little tight since it's so close to the top. That way we can get our driver in. For this last drawer, we're doing it just a little bit differently because we can't get clamps in when it's all the way in there. So we have to pull out this lower drawer, pull out our upper drawer, and then we'll do the same thing with our spacers on this lower drawer. Then we can put our drawer front in place. And then all I do is take another spacer, just make sure the edges are flush together. And then with that in place, we can go ahead and clamp it down. Now we can just screw it in place. And with that, our drawers are fully installed. Now that we got our fronts on here, these are very difficult to open up as they sit. Honestly, you can't really do it. So do not put your back panel on first. Get your handles installed so you can actually pull your drawers out, then put your back panel on. Putting on handles, really straightforward. Generally, if I'm gonna be doing a lot of drawers, I'll make my own jig, whether I 3D print it or I cut it out myself. However, since this is just 3 drawers, I'm not gonna worry about it. We're just gonna go ahead and measure everything out. We'll drill it. In order to save yourself a little bit of time, once you get these holes measured out, you can just go ahead and pull out all of your drawers, take out a speed square, line up that mark, move it all the way down for each drawer face, and you got all your marks. We've got our handles mounted up here. Now it's time to finish off these drawers with a back panel. We've got our back panel cut out of 3/4 inch plywood. Now I'm sealing this up mainly just to keep dust from getting in here. And there's a couple ways you could fasten this in place. I'm gonna just be screwing it in place, no glue or anything. That way it's still removable. However, you could just do glue and brad nails because the drawers themselves are removable. So if you ever drop something down there, you can still get stuff out. But to each their own, however you want. I am an engineer, so I'm a bit of a stickler with how I put these screws in. So I'm just gonna go through, use my spacers to trace out my holes, pre-drill, and then put them in. Alrighty, with that, the whole cabinet is done, so we only have one thing left to do, and that's put some wheels on. I've got our table flipped upside down. I say this in all my videos, but I'm gonna say it again because it matters. I'm using 4-inch caster wheels. Don't cheap out and get 2-inch or 3-inch. You want 4-inch because they roll over everything on your shop floor. They're worth the extra couple bucks. These are pretty much the best ones I have ever found. They're the best bang for your buck, and I'll have these linked down below in the video description so you can check them out. How I install these is I lay it down in place and then trace out the 3 holes that my lag screws are going to go into. There are 4 holes here. You don't need to use all 4. There's plenty of strength with just a 3. Now with everything traced out, we can go ahead and pre-drill all the holes. I added a little piece of painter's tape. That's just my stop, so I know I don't over-drill. Now with everything pre-drilled, we can go ahead, get our casters attached. I'm using 1.5-inch lag screws, and I'm tightening everything up by hand because it's very easy to over-tighten these if you're using a gun. All right, as we sit, we've got a really great medium height workbench. This is great for your builds that are too tall for your main workbenches, but too short when you're working on the floor. It's nice to have something medium because then you don't have to bend over a ton. But it's time for the really fun part, and that's mounting up our tools. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I am super pleased to have this in my shop, and I'm looking forward to using my bandsaw and my drill press a lot more often. Plus, I really hope you guys learned something new with installing drawers and sliders using the spacer method. I'm telling you, I will never go back. That is the method I will use from here on out. I actually enjoy installing drawers now. If you want to build this yourself, check out my plans. They include material sections with links, detailed cut lists, and full color-coded assembly instructions. It makes the whole process way easier. As usual, hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all my future projects. If you enjoyed this video or you learned something new, hit the like button for me. Helps me out a ton, and I really appreciate it. And then if you got something to say or a burning question to ask, leave a comment. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.